Hello and welcome to the James Granstrom Podcast, Super Soul Model Series, where I help people tune and tap into their natural state of well-being. This week, I have a phenomenal guest, Guy de Amparo. Guy is a yoga teacher, a meditation teacher, and he helps demystify the spirituality concepts for people who are looking to tune into their essence. Welcome to the show, Guy.
Thank you, James. I'm pleased to be here. Thank you for this lovely introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for having me.
So happy to have you here. Guy, I came across your work because I've been meditating for a long time. For my viewers and my listeners who know my story, I've been meditating for nearly 20 years, every single day. I started meditating because I got into drinking and partying, and it caused me all sorts of problems until I started asking a few questions. And that led me to meditation and then into looking into spirituality and understanding how the mechanics of life, how we fit in this infinite universe. And I started asking some deep questions and got some absolutely empowering answers. And then probably about a year and a half ago, I came across you on social media, and I loved what you were doing. And I love that the content you've been putting out, Guy. And so, how did you get into meditation? How did you become a yoga teacher? How did you sort of enter this world and start to help people demystify this concept?
Wow. I think that our stories are similar because I also start seriously meditating approximately 20 years ago. And it was just after a period as well, being lost and trying to find my answers in distractions such as drinking, partying, and so on, smoking. So I think first, many people, many beautiful souls in this planet, they go through this awakening process painfully sometimes via going to parties, drinking, smoking, using drugs, because they are such a pure souls and they feel so lost. And it's so easy to go through these distractions, unfortunately. And eventually it starts to show you some sides that's not the way. And eventually the universe starts to bring you the answers and you start to go in the right path because you crash, and then after crashing you have to rebound yourself, right? And then you start to look for more answers connected to your divine self, I would say. So I started my journey also 20 years ago approximately, when I was teenager. And thankfully from my parents, because they were all, both of them, my mom and my father, they were very spiritual. They were in different lines of spirituality. um, my mom more into the yoga, Hinduism, spirituality, channeling, and my father through more mysticism, and especially from the ancient knowledge from the Egyptian civilization, for example.
Yeah, how
So
interesting. And you're originally from Brazil as well, aren't you?
exactly, yes, I'm originally from Brazil. I come from São Paulo area,
Yeah.
which is the most populated area in Brazil, and I come from the coast side, so I was being connected to the sea, luckily. And yeah, my mom is an immigrant from Portugal, so met my father, and they had very interesting spiritual views, very similar views. So both of them definitely influenced me with books. And I started seriously meditating after being initiated in a philosophy where my father was part on. So I've been initiated in a school of mysticism where they call Orden Rosacruz. So the Rosicrucians, basically, they have been in the world for many centuries already, and they have their knowledge, their wisdom from the ancient initiative schools from the Egypt. So in the Egypt, they have initiative schools that were initiating um, people who are interested in mysticism. So they were interested to know the laws of the universe. So from there, I started to experience my first meditations, let's say, more seriously when I was
How
around
old were you at that time?
between 20, 21, I guess, yes.
Okay.
So I'm now 42, so it's nearly 20 years ago, exactly
Sure.
like.
Amazing. How unusual to have parents that are, of, two different things, because not everybody has that growing up. Your environment that can really help you determine your path to a certain extent, and it gives you a sort of platform in which to launch yourself into how you see the world. And Guy, how you see the world is probably a bit unusual in comparison with most people's upbringing, particularly in Europe. You're conditioned into an environment where, or especially me, I can really talk from my own experiences. You grow up, you're a teenager, you want to go out and party, you want to go out and drink, and you do it all again next weekend over and over again. So, how did you move out of that, if that was your experience? Because you mentioned that you were drinking, smoking, partying. And for a lot of young people, it seems that this is a trap that you can easily fall into. Um,
Mhm.
and there is another way that's healthy, and that's what you love to do. You love to help people tune into their essence and not make spirituality such a far out subject, even though there are metaphysical rules. But how do you bring it back down to earth a little bit?
Yeah, since I was young, I always liked to take a risk, so I left home at a very early age. So, and then there was always these two sides, these two polarities of me: the one who wants to party, and the one who wants to explore spirituality. So there was always this conflict inside of me. I was exploring both in the same time, I would say, in the
Sure.
beginning, right? The same time I was going to party with my friends. The same time I was taking some time to read about spirituality, about mysticism, and to take some meditation steps already. So slowly I started to understand that everything is vibration. So having more awareness that the importance of you having a healthy vibration, as everything in the universe vibrates, and so and you start to attract, let's say you start to manifest your life throughout your frequency. I start to become more conscious that the spirituality would help me to detach from environments that were not healthy vibrationally speaking, if you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. You go into a toxic environment, you may be in a room or you go to a party, there's a lot of drugs, there's a lot of drinking. As a young person, it seems like that's what you want to do, but you collect these energies and it sort of helps you, or should I say, makes you stay in that environment for a long period of time. I call it the loop of lunacy, where you're just
Yes.
like in this cycle over and over again. You can never escape until you somehow look at things a bit differently and take some new risks and you try some new things, but that takes a lot of courage. So yeah, what was your sort of defining moment that made you go, right, I've got to go down this route? Because everybody's got some drive, everybody's got a why, you want
Yeah.
to take this route.
No, I'll be honest with you. I've been on and off on these cycles. As you were saying, I was trapped. Eventually, I changed countries, I changed cities. Uh, if you go through the party subjects, I think I've been partying in most of the capitals of Europe. So it was being, I was on and off the spiritual journey. It's been, I was there, but I was always somehow diverting myself to these environments where I was kind of testing myself as well. It was part of the journey. So, and then finally, I have arrived, let's say, destiny or somehow fate. I have arrived in a very beautiful place, at Island where I live now, and I had all the ingredients to start a spiritual journey. I start to meet people that they were assisting my journey, my spiritual journey, by being there and open to explore ideas that they were very interesting for me, and also meditating basically weekly. So I started to create a routine, and I started to attract the right people in my life, which has led to a spiritual journey that even took me to India. So once in India, I became a certified meditation teacher, which took me to a second journey in India, which brought me as a certified yoga multi-style teacher. But going directly to your question, I think I started to be more, let's say, determined and more responsible in my spiritual path. I started to really allow to be surrounded by music, content, the books I was reading, the people I was trying to interact in my free time. So everything I was surrounding myself with this type of conditions and circumstances and environment that was promoting more and more my expansion in the spiritual field. I think what you consume is very important. So what do you see in the YouTube, what you watch in the YouTube, what you listen in the podcasts, right? What do you read? The people around you, if the people accept you, your spirituality, if they accept the way you are, because sometimes when you go in a spiritual path, you can seems to be a bit weird to other people, right? So you start to be comfortable, and you create the environment which is more in tune with your vibration, which is in tune with your frequency. So if anyone wants to start a spiritual path, obviously you have to be you have to take the time to connect with people, to like-minded people, and also to content. Just start to follow the right accounts in your social media. Start to listen to good podcasts related to spirituality.
Like this
Watch.
one, little plug.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely. You have to surround yourself with the content, and then your environment starts to invite you naturally to practice.
One of the things that I love to use, you were talking about frequency and vibration. Nikola Tesla always saying, think of the universe in terms of frequency and vibration. Big fan of Nikola Tesla's work.
Me
But I
too.
also use like the idea of your heart. Your heart tells you what's right for you. And when you listen to it and you're able to quiet the mind enough so you can listen to where you're being guided to, I can only really speak from my own experience. My heart was like wanting me to understand how the nature of reality. My heart was wanting to understand my place in the universe. Because if you're going out on a Friday, coming back on a Sunday, and you've had a big weekend, you'll be thinking the nature of reality is not at the top of your list. But once you sort of come down a little bit, you think there's got to be something else going on here. And if you're asking that question, well, number one, you're on the right show. You're listening to the right podcast. But number two, the answers that come from that are incredible, and they are just for you. In my case, it was receiving books. In my case, it was being led, looking at the signs, looking at the coincidences, looking at the synchronicities that shown up. And if you can just be open enough to just spot the signs, to be able to look at a book and think, wow, that I've always had that book, but I think it's time to actually read it. I had that with the Celestine Prophecy. I had that in the mid 90s.
Yes,
A
exactly.
great
Me too.
book by James Redfield, yeah, and it's like an Indiana Jones, but for the spiritual quest. So I really recommend anybody to read it if you haven't. But I've had it for years in the library in the house, and then one day, like early 2000, must have been 2000 or something, the year 2000, I started reading. I was like, wow. And then I was looking at the coincidences and the signs that it talks about, which was one of the insights. So if you can be open enough to ask a question, is there more? Is there more to life than what I'm seeing? Is there more to me than what I know? Because you are more than just you think you are. But it's only when you sort of invite yourself to look into the nature of your own essence, which is what Guy teaches, that you may just discover your own adventure, which is what this whole spiritual adventure is all about in the first place. and it
Mhm.
becomes quite exciting, and it's very personal to you. I mean, in my case, what I've been exposed to has been like, I mean, how on earth do I share this? So it was only nearly 3 years ago that I started up this podcast going, right, I've got some very interesting experiences, and there's still so many things I've yet to share, but it was kind of fun to let it unfold naturally rather than forcefully. So
Mhm.
yeah, I just invite everybody who's listening and to not only check out Guy's work, but just to, just ask the question, who am I?
Yes.
Why am I here? What's my purpose? Is there anything else going on? And just see what happens and unfolds as a result of that. That's what I did. And boom,
Yes.
I had a phenomenal experience. I mean, were these the types of questions you were asking, Guy? I mean, I'm just
Mhm.
intrigued.
Absolutely, because you say something amazing. Because 50% of the population, for example, in the United States, are depressed. You are depressed because you don't have meaning in your life. You don't have, let's say, a purpose, or you don't need to have a purpose. Life is a platform for you to create purpose. A purpose can be your cat, can be your mother, can be your father, can be anything, anyone. But when you really connect to yourself, to your heart, as you said, and is there anything else? Is there any more? I think it's very valuable to do these questions, because when you start to understand that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, you start to take it more lightly. You take life more lightly because you understand this is just a passage, this is a template, this is a platform. And if you want, you're going to come back in another avatar, in another body, in another life experience. So when you start to understand spirituality, you start to understand that you have a sense inside of you, you have energy, you have, let's say, a soul or a higher self. There are many ways to name it, but that's your true self. It's not your body, but you are an entity that is infinite. You never die. You live forever. You just come here to this planet to experience this reality. This reality is very dense. Life is made to challenge the human being. But when you start to connect with this, let's say, divine self, divine essence, you start to remember that you are here in a journey. And this is all created to look very real, to survive. However, when you start to connect and feel it, that you are much more, you are an entity, an energy entity or so, you start to take it more in a light way, I would say. More not so,
You become a little bit more lighthearted. You can laugh at the problems and challenges.
let's say that.
You know,
Yes.
so
Yes.
Shakespeare says, life is a comedy of errors, and you can look back at your errors and go, "Oh God!" But in the moment when you're experiencing your challenge and adversity, it feels like the hardest thing. I can say that, with
Yeah.
my dad having died and then looking after my mum, and
Hmm.
even after 2 years, I'm still caring for my mum.
Hmm.
But I can still look back on the challenge because when I first arrived here in Spain, where I'm currently at looking after my mum, uh, I was like, I know nothing about this place and I've had to learn. And now it becomes more familiar. So your journey now is all more about revealing your own inner power and ability to move through challenges. And that is very rewarding for your soul because it sort of develops a little grace, develops a little humility.
That's right.
And then that's really important as a human being as you grow, because it's not the end destination that you reach up. I as a meditator, I always think that what am I going to get from meditating? It's the
Okay.
journey, isn't it? It's not what you happen get at the end. It's who you become along the way.
Yeah, actually, meditation, there are wow, incredible benefits. You can have physical benefits in your biology, obviously, but also when you advance, you can have answers. You can start to see your life becoming, transforming. You start to see situations unfolding in your reality, as you said, books. arrive, content arrive, opportunities arrive. Everything starts to arrive when you start to understand more about your spirituality. Spirituality doesn't mean that you have to be religious. Spirituality means that you understand you believe and understand your uniqueness. You are a unique being, right, in the universe. So you just start to learn more about yourself. So it's about discovering yourself, discovering uh, your gifts, because everybody is born with gifts. You are born with so many, equipped with so many gifts, and many people is trying to enhance their limitations, or trying to let's say overcome their limitations. But actually you should just focus on what you have the best on you. Everybody knows what they really would like to be, you know. So when I was a child, I would like to become an astronaut. That was my passion. I was looking to the stars. So eventually I start to get into the stars through meditation, let's say. So it was a way, there's a way I travel, there's a way that I may connect with other beings in another dimensions, on another galaxy or whatever, you know. This is my beliefs. I don't think we are alone in this entire universe, this vast universe. So somehow I become my astronaut. So, but everybody knows something that you were in love when you were a child, something that really excites you, something that when you connect with that, the time stops and you are completely present. Everybody knows that. I mean, everybody should at least try to remember what you were doing as a child, that you were completely present in the moment, and just go for it. For example, that's a way to find your path. You talk about Shakespeare, and he was initiated also in this school that I mentioned in the beginning.
What, the Egyptian school?
Yes, Shakespeare, and also
Okay.
Isaac Newton, for example. There were many nice, interesting names from UK that you find in initiative mystic schools.
So who were they again? So you said Shakespeare. Was there another one?
Isaac Newton
Isaac Newton. Yeah, Isaac Newton.
and Isaac Newton, sorry, and Francis Bacon as well.
Francis Bacon. Wow. Okay. And they were all part of the an Egyptian school, were they?
Yes,
I didn't know.
I can send you the link. It's the name is Orden Hosen Cruz.
Okay.
It's called uh, Rosicrucians philosophy.
Well, what we'll do is we'll put that link in the show notes below. So you guys, if you're interested, you can check that out, because this is all quite interesting about what drives us and where we get information from, and how it helps us move forward with our own path. I just wanted to say, like, you were talking a little bit earlier, that, to become interested in your own passion. I once heard someone say this, and I was like, "Ah, I love this. The most interesting adventure and person you'll ever meet is when you go to the depth of your own soul." I remember thinking, are you really that? If you can look at it, selfishly, can you look at yourself and go, are you that interesting? Okay, I know I'm funny, on a surface level. I know I've got a sense of humor, but really, am I really? Is this the path? But it's only really when you actually start meditating and you start having a sense of introspection, you start having a practice and a habit where you show up for yourself every day, that you realize that there is an absolute infinite depth to who you really are. And it's not just your name that you are, or the identity that you are, or, the race, creed, color, or whatever you think you've been conditioned to believe. You are, as Guy says, you're an infinite soul with an essence that's divine. And you can only really access that when you experience stillness and quiet. And you need to give yourself that so you can actually touch on that. So yeah, I remember reading that going, wow. And then when you actually have an experience, because if you ask for one, when you ask, it is given.
Correct.
Do you ever have an experience where you're going, wow, I've had a pretty far out experience. It's better than taking drugs. It's better than, getting drunk, and it's better than smoking anything.
Absolutely.
It's your own pure experience, and you're getting absolute real chemicals that your body produces
Real
naturally.
chemicals.
And this stays with you. It's like you get a DNA upgrade as a result
Absolutely.
of you being able to quiet your mind regularly. And,
Yes.
that's why when I
You can
first,
enhance your cells. You
sorry?
can enhance your cells capacity.
Absolutely. Joe
Truly.
Dispenza talks about that you can heal yourself,
Hmm.
with your thinking, and you can heal yourself as he did with, having a bike injury back in the 80s. Um,
True.
but also you can experience a depth of your being that you didn't even think was present because you were in Tesco's or whatever, shopping, and you're thinking, yeah, this is, I've got to do this, I've got to look after the kids, I've got to pay the bills, I've got to do this. But you didn't realize there was also a mystical experience that might just suddenly appear your way because you've been quietening your mind, for 15, 20 minutes a day.
That's correct. It takes 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day.
We've only got a few minutes left, but in those few minutes, could you just take us on one of your little guided meditations, if possible? Because Guy, you've got a wonderful voice and a wonderful way about being able to take us back into our own personal essence. So, would it be possible if you sort of gave us like a 2-minute guided meditation or something like that?
Sure. We need to understand what is meditation. I know we don't have much time, but I
Yeah.
know many people get it hard to meditate because they think when they close their eyes and they start to make their mind blank. So that's not the goal. You don't need to make your mind blank. Don't do it. Just allow the thoughts to come. Just be present and just accept whatever is coming. So what I'm gonna do now, we're gonna guide the initiation, let's say, how you can start your meditation, okay? And then we'll arrive in the point where you just accept whatever is coming for you. And when you start to arrive in that moment where you are accepting there will be thoughts, there will be sensations, there will be feelings, there will be, let's say, interruptions from the monkey mind. And that's completely normal. Don't fight, never your mind. Okay. So before we start meditation, there is a lot of theory, there is a lot of information, but basically is never fight the mind. If the mind wants to think, just let it flow, just let it um, produce whatever they want. And one time you will see that you start to observe your mind from distance, you start to observe your thoughts, and the mind starts to become quieter and quieter. Thoughts will arise eventually, but not so intensively, as long as you focus on your breath. So I will guide us. I invite everyone, I invite you, your audience, your lovely audience, everyone who's will watch us, to just close their eyes gently. And I would like you to place the fingers from your left hand in your chest and try to connect from the tip of your fingers with your heartbeat. Very gently, you just start to try to find what is the most intense vibration coming from your heart. And now I will invite you to breathe very gently, slowly, only through the nose, and feeling the temperature of your breath. And you notice that when you inhale, you feel the air, the freshness of the air passing through your nostrils. As you exhale, you notice that the air is coming out warmer. And now, as you relax your face muscles, I invite you to place a very gentle smile on your lips, subtle smile, and just observe the sensations provided by your heart, the vibrations in your fingers. and the temperature of your breath. Now, in your mind, in your inner sight, in your inner vision, you can visualize, imagine, or just allow your intuition to flow. And let this light in your forehead to arrive, as you could see the colors, you could see the luminosity in your inner mind. Now always combine it. The breath, the luminosity, and the vibration in your hand. From here, you're gonna only accept and allow whatever it comes and unfold in your inner experience. And so it is. So I invite you to bring now your hands together in a prayer position. This is a Anjali Mudra. Both palms connecting. You take a deep breath in. Exhale. With your eyes gazing down, you may open your eyes and come back. Namaste.
Namaste. And
So
thank you. That's beautiful.
From that moment that you say you have everything connected, that's the moment you accept and let it flow. Just whatever comes, let it be, and you can take it for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and you are meditating.
And that little feeling that you get, that sort of, it's like a high little sensation, feeling, vibration around your body. That's your essence. That's your energy. And that is how Guy helps people and has helped many, many people. Just tune into that regularly, because when you tune in and you feel that, that helps you become healthier. It helps you become happier. It helps you become more in tune with making the right decisions for wherever you're at life. Guy,
I'm very happy that you felt that in such
yeah,
a
it's
short,
great. I mean, for me, I've been meditating.
short.
It's super short, but you don't need to be there all day. You're not gonna feel that there all day, but it is nice to just at least be aware of it and know what it is, because in the beginning you may not know what it is, and people such as yourself and myself can actually at least identify what that is. So, Guy, I just want to say a big thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and your heart, and really enjoyed it. If people want to get hold of you and get into contact with you for either private coaching or group coaching, or just know a little bit more about you, where can they find you? Just so that people can hear who are listening to the show.
Sure, thank you, James. People can find me googling Good Vibes Catalyst. Good Vibes Catalyst. That is my social media. That is my website, and they can directly contact with me on Instagram or my website or Facebook page. Good Vibes Catalyst.
Fantastic. Well, I'll have that in the links below so you can get hold of it. But it's always good to hear you say it, and so I like it. I like the title "Good Vibes Catalyst." That's amazing. Guy, thank you so much for being part of the show. Loved having you on, and loved connecting with you, and particularly loved that little mini meditation that we did together. Guy de Amparo was this week's Super Soul Model. So thank you so much, and until the next time, I wish you all green lights all the way.
Thanks to you, James, once again. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you.